Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pain Scale. Today, I'm back with you for a new video. This video will be entitled um, Overconsumerism and Why the World Views You Only as a Transaction. That statement couldn't be any truer, the world viewing you as a transaction, because that's all you really are to the world, to business people, to businesses, is another transaction. And I know I've spoken about over consumerism in some of my previous videos, but I definitely want to go more in depth into over consumerism. And what is overconsumerism? Um, I don't have a definition um, on me handy, but what does overconsumerism mean to me? And well, what should it really mean to humanity as a whole? What is overconsumerism? Is buying stuff that we don't need, and the more stuff that these companies produce, the more people consume, the more stuff these people, when I say people, these business people, these businesses produce, and anything that they don't sell, massive like amounts of stock that they have that they don't sell, like clothes and stuff. They don't sell, which they could give away, to people in need of clothes and stuff. They tear them up, they throw them away, they send them somewhere else in the world, somewhere like Africa, India, I believe China has waste dumping issues. I briefly saw on a documentary I mentioned before, Buy Now, a shopping conspiracy. I guess Canada has some dumping up there too, but yeah, pretty much everything that these companies can't sell, they will dump. They will destroy and dump. Even Amazon was cited in that video of destroying products, clothes, plastic, toys, and stuff like that, and like destroying them, and I guess sending them away somewhere, probably on a cargo ship, again to Africa, India, China, where people live first and foremost, where people live, and they dump this shit, on beaches and stuff, and they pollute their where environments where human beings live, and they don't care because it's out of their hands now, so they couldn't give a shit. So but let's continue. Um, Over consumerism also means to me, humanity would like to claim, oh, we are the smartest beings, on this planet, blah, blah, blah. Um, no other animal is conscious like we are, which, I believe all animals feel and, are conscious in their own way, just like we're conscious in our own way, but um, humanity is too stupid to realize, how conscious we actually are. Because if we were really conscious, we would realize overconsumerism, which I guess this should be the actual definition for overconsumerism, is we are buying ourselves to death. You know, um, there's no really other better way to put it than we're buying ourselves to death. Like these companies are making, again, clothes we don't need, new pairs of headphones, new iPhones, and whatever other phone. They got a new generation of phone every year. Shit we don't need. You know, um, One of the things I was wondering about in particularly is cars, like vehicles, personal vehicles that we use, cars and stuff, like motor scooters, whatever, buses and stuff. It's like, what happens to like these cars and stuff, like when when a car breaks down, like sure they send them to a scrapyard, but you have to think like how much of a car can actually be healthily recycled, and stuff like that, or do they just send those, like, the bodies of the cars and the buses and these scooters and stuff that they've probably crushed and compacted into little cubes and stuff? Do they just like bury them somewhere, like out in like the soil, like in a landfill somewhere, and like from like all the chemicals and stuff, possibly in the metals and stuff, like do those like really pollute if they are buried in landfill? So, it's questions like that, that are pretty should be pretty scary to people, to human beings, because it's like, the more shit that is dumped into the environment, the more the environment can be poisoned. And people don't realize, like, oh, like it's just, a forest or something. Like, we need nature. I know some people don't realize that, because I say that because that's true. It's like some people are like, oh, are we taught in school that we need nature? Um, Honestly, I don't think I've ever been fully taught like that. Like, I don't think I've ever like had like a real lesson in school that how important, or puts how important nature is on this planet. It's like, I think, yeah, I've probably been taught, like, trees create oxygen, and stuff like that. But then it's like you also realize, the ocean, you know, where people fish. Some places on the planet, that's their main source of food is fish and sea life and stuff like that. And the more we pollute the sea, obviously the more shit dies. More some of the most sentient beings on this planet, like whales and dolphins and stuff like that. There are a lot of those species are already pretty endangered, and then it's like, add pollution to the equation. It's like they really don't stand a chance. um so I really don't think people are taught or realize how really important nature is. It's like I was talking before, like, only, I think it was like, there's a statistic out there, like 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware. Human beings, it's only about 10 to 15% of human beings are self-aware. And it's like, how many people are actually aware of what's going on, in the environment around them? I wonder how many people actually, realize or really care about that, because most people are just worried about, like, oh, I got to get up and go to work. Like, that's not the most important thing in the world, believe it or not. But I'm going to stop right there about the definitions of overconsumerism, and I'm going to go to now is what I'm going to go to now is why um the world and other human beings just view you as a transaction. And when I say, other people just view you as a transaction, you might start to feel like a certain way, like, oh wow, like, are people really that predatory and stuff? Like, because that, to me, that's what, like, when I say, people view you as a transaction, like, that's a feeling, or a thought that I get, is like, wow, like, people are very predatory, because it's really, people are very, human beings are very predatory, especially when it comes to things like business and money. We're the most, obviously there's no other beings on this earth that use money and stuff like that. So, but human beings, when it comes to money, it's human beings are very sinister when it comes to money, things, and stuff like that, status. Um, but yeah, let me just go ahead and get in how the world views you as a transaction. Um, which it does, from the time that everybody, or if you graduate high school, I know some people leave in high school, or get a GED, stuff like that. From that time, that's when colleges start to look at you. They're starting to look at. They're not looking at, oh wow, oh, excuse me, colleges aren't looking at you like, oh wow, like, we're going to make this, you're going to help, this fellow human being. We're going to help them. We're going to make them into a better person, somebody that can contribute to humanity, or help the planet and stuff. Like, they're not looking at you like that. They're looking at you like, oh wow, how much money can we put on this person? That's all they're looking at. They're like, oh wow, like, oh, this person wants to be this, so that's like $500,000 to become a doctor. Okay, so how many people in here want to be a doctor? Like one, two, three, four, five. They count. Oh, five people. That's $500,000 we can get on each of those people and pretty much become multimillionaires overnight. That's the first time you're looked as a transaction. Um, and then really, and then generally in life, you're looked as a transaction. Like you have. I've seen people before. Going to businesses and the business owner is like familiar with some of their customers or something. They're talking and stuff like this, like a comic or games, or that's all a facade. They really don't. Obviously, if you're emotionally intelligent, they're not your friends or anything. Um, they just want you to buy something. And if you don't want to buy it, they forget about you. They're on to the next one. They couldn't give a shit about you. So that's another way people are viewed as a transaction. And really, just your existence in general is viewed as a transaction. Um, and some people say like, "Oh, how is that possible?" Um, if you're not um like this, I want to say like this new generation, you know, um, Gen Z again, which I'm part of. Um, People will say, like, oh, Gen Z's lazy, they don't want to work. That's because, Gen Z's, fully realize, it's like we're working and stuff like that, but it's like, well, like, where, nothing's coming out of this. Like, we can't live, we can't pay for our houses, we can barely pay for food. Um, as well, like, there's no time for like luxuries and stuff. That's because, these businesses, they don't care about you. They care about your production rate. They will give you a small amount of money and say, oh wow, that's pretty good. But they only care about your production rate. And if you're not producing for them, you're not worth anything to anybody. I've seen people talk about homeless people before. It's like, like, oh, these homeless people are a nuisance. They're a nuisance because they're not being productive to businesses and stuff like that. Because again, that's another way. If you're not being productive to a business or the government and stuff, people really don't really care about you. That's sad. As human beings, we just can't care about each other. It's all about production at the end of the day. Um, so um, it's time to move on. From all of that, oh, I want to grow up to be a productive American citizen, and I'm gonna do all that. They don't care about you. It's like, and I don't know if anybody's out there have seen or as a fan, I love to look up quotes and stuff, but there was a quote out there that said, if you die tomorrow, your job position is going to be up the next day for hire. So it's like, it's to this world, you're nothing more than a transaction. To again, big business people, politicians, stuff like that. The religious, Catholic, these mega churches and really just regular churches, you're just a transaction for them. That's it. There's nothing special going on there. It's just you're a transaction to them, and that's some people that sounds hurtful, and it can be hurtful, but it's like, just arm yourself with that knowledge that you know I'm just a transaction for somebody else. And keep in mind, like, another reason why I stopped being a consumer, other than really as just a transaction for other people, um, is that I just start to realize, like, you know, I'm giving these people money. It's like, I really don't even know these people. Like, I'm giving them money. Like, what are they doing with it? Like, are they helping the world? Like, are they giving back to other people? Like, I know some businesses will be like, oh, yeah, we give back to people, which, they'll do like a donation to charity and give it to fuck, who knows, whatever, I don't really believe in charity. I know some people like, you don't believe in charity. Like, yeah, I don't really believe in charity because it's like you give money to people and then it's like you don't know where, like, if I want to help, the homeless and stuff, like I give money to these people, but they got to pay, the idea, there is no such thing as um, a nonprofit business. There's always profit in there somewhere. And when you give these people this money, especially if it's a large amount, um, I don't know how all that works, but they take the money and they pay themselves. And they'll give as little as they can to the actual homeless, or whatever else. Let me not get into the whole big pharma like donate like a cure for this and that, because it's like people have been donating for cures for different diseases for decades now, and it's like there's still no scientific breakthrough, like, as far as science has advanced, and you know people can, out there, they got someplace like over in Europe where they got like a, was it like a super collider or something like that? It's like messes with atoms or something like that. Like, we can have scientific breakthroughs with that, but it's like, why can't we find a cure for a disease? That's just, that seems kind of bogus to me. Like, you still can't find anything. It's like you have, it's just, again, I'm not gonna get into that into because that could be a whole nother video on itself. But yeah, just to wrap this up, though, yeah, over consumerism and the world viewing you as a transaction might sound crazy to people, up front, um, but in reality, that's as real as it gets, right there. Some people might think, like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's, I'm not, an official authority on stuff. Like when I talk about human beings, I'm not a social scientist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a, whatever, something else that deals with humanities. I'm not an official in that way, but I am an official in a way of, I mentioned I'm 27. I've been through enough shit at this age for a lifetime. I know people, I know human beings. Um and if you really look at humanity, even if you just like take a look at the news, like I know a lot of people don't like to watch the news, but take a look at the news, just take a look back at human history, how antisocial human beings are, because I'm going to do a video on that too. Why human beings are actually antisocial creatures, because sure, there's stuff that points like, oh, like we like to have company and stuff, but there's so many more things out there that points to why um human beings are just antisocial creatures. So I'm gonna do a video on that. But yeah, from this video, again, over consumerism and why the world views you as a transaction, just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to prevent anybody from buying anything or something like that. It's, I still buy, few things here and there. But I don't over consume anymore. I don't collect anymore. I used to be a collector and stuff like that, but just keep in mind, and I know it's hard, to really help this, because it's, um we can't really, unless humanity unites and really tries to make an effort to change the world. That's the only way it's going to change. But there's not a lot that we can do. But excuse me, this is definitely something for you to keep in mind. So if you are watching, thank you very much for tuning into the pain scale again, and you have a great one. Thank you very much.